The stars had never seemed so close. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon, watching the massive space station grow larger in the viewing screen. His heart pounded in his chest. This was it. First contact with the Galactic Council. "Distance to Sanctuary Prime, 200 kilometers and closing," said Lieutenant Peters from the navigation station. Jake took a deep breath. Behind him stood Dr. Lisa Harper, the smartest person he knew. She had spent the last 3 years learning everything she could about alien languages and cultures. Next to her was Ambassador Nina Cole, who would speak for all of humanity today. "They're beautiful," Lisa whispered, staring at the alien ships floating around the station. Some looked like giant crystals. Others seemed to be made of pure light. There were vessels shaped like insects, and others that resembled swimming creatures from Earth's oceans. The communication system crackled to life. A deep voice spoke in perfect English. "Human Vessel Horizon, you are cleared to dock at Bay 17. Welcome to the Galactic Council." Jake felt a smile spread across his face. They had done it. After 200,000 years of human history, they had finally found others in the universe. The docking procedure took 20 minutes. When the airlock opened, Jake led his team into a corridor that seemed to be made of living metal. The walls shifted colors as they walked, responding to their presence. A tall alien waited for them at the end of the corridor. It stood on 2 legs like a human, but its skin was covered in dark green scales. Its eyes were golden and intelligent. When it spoke, its mouth didn't move, but the words appeared in Jake's mind. "I am Vextor, High Chancellor of the Galactic Council. We have waited a long time to meet your species." Nina stepped forward and bowed slightly. "Thank you for receiving us, Chancellor. Humanity is honored to be here." Vextor made a gesture that might have been a smile. "Come, the Council wishes to meet you." They followed the Chancellor through halls filled with wonders. Aliens of every shape and size moved past them. Some stopped to stare at the humans. Jake couldn't tell if they looked curious or concerned. The council chamber was enormous. It could have held 10 football stadiums inside it. Thousands of aliens sat in curved rows that rose up toward a domed ceiling that showed the stars outside. At the center of the room stood a raised platform with 47 seats. Jake had studied the council's structure. Each seat represented one of the founding species: the reptilian Drathkar, the energy beings called Lumina, the insect-like Vexti, the crystalline Korath, and 43 others, each representing thousands of years of civilization. "The humans seem so young," one alien whispered as they passed. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. "All new species are young," another replied. "They will learn their place." Lisa's hand tightened on her datapad, but she said nothing. Jake noticed her jaw clench. The ceremony lasted for hours. Each council member stood and spoke about the importance of peace and cooperation. They talked about the great achievements of their civilizations. They welcomed humanity with flowery words and grand gestures. But Jake couldn't shake a strange feeling. Something felt off. The way some council members looked at them reminded him of how people looked at children. There was kindness there, but also condescension. When it was Nina's turn to speak, she stood tall. "Humanity has dreamed of this moment for centuries. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship. We offer our skills, our culture, and our dedication to the greater good of all species." The council applauded. It sounded like thunder mixed with music and things Jake had no words for. Vextor stood again. "We accept humanity into our community. You will have access to our trade routes, our technologies, and our protection. In return, you will follow our laws and guidance." "What role will humanity play in council decisions?" Nina asked carefully. "All new species must prove themselves first," Vextor said smoothly. "You will observe and learn. When you have shown your worth, we will consider full membership." Jake didn't like the sound of that, but Nina nodded graciously. We understand. Thank you for this opportunity. Later, back on the horizon, the team gathered in the conference room. Admiral Kevin Blake joined them via video link from Earth. How did it go? Kevin asked. His gray hair and tired eyes showed the stress of the past weeks. They accepted us, Nina said, but only as junior members. We can trade and learn from them, but we have no vote in council matters. That's normal for new species, Lisa added, though she didn't sound convinced. I studied their history. Most species wait 50 to 100 years before getting full membership. What's bothering you, Lisa? Jake asked. He had worked with her long enough to read her moods. She pulled up a file on the main screen. Some of the things I heard today, the way they called us young ones and newcomers, the way they talked about teaching us our place, it reminded me of old colonial attitudes from Earth's history. You're worried they see us as inferior? Kevin said quietly. I'm worried they see us as something to manage, not as equals, Lisa replied. Nina shook her head. We can't jump to conclusions. Every species probably goes through this. We need to be patient and prove ourselves. Jake wanted to believe her. He wanted to think the best of their new galactic neighbors. But a small voice in his head kept whispering warnings. Back on Earth, billions of humans celebrated. They watched recordings of the ceremony. They dreamed of visiting other worlds and meeting alien friends. They believed humanity had entered a golden age. Only a few people like Jake and Lisa felt the shadow of doubt. And even they couldn't have imagined how right their instincts were. The Galactic Council had welcomed humanity with open arms. But those arms were preparing to close into chains. 2 years had passed since that first meeting. Commander Sam Carter looked out over New Terra, humanity's fastest-growing colony. The settlement stretched across a green valley with buildings that mixed human and alien architecture. 50,000 humans now called this place home. Sam felt proud. Humanity had done well in these 2 years. Human doctors had cured 3 alien diseases. Human engineers had improved galactic ship designs. Human artists had created works that moved even the coldest alien hearts. They had earned their place. Today was special. Senator Amy Richardson was presenting humanity's case for full council membership. Sam and everyone else on New Terra gathered in the Central Plaza to watch the broadcast. Across the galaxy, on Sanctuary Prime, Dr. Greg Walters sat alone in the council archives. He was supposed to be researching trade agreements. Instead, he had stumbled onto something that made his blood run cold. The archive files were old, written in ancient galactic languages. Greg had spent months learning to read them. What he found horrified him. The council had a dark history. 17 times before, they had welcomed new species. 17 times those species had disappeared from history. He searched for more information. The words he found made him sick. Slave, labor, resource extraction, property. Greg's hands shook as he activated his communication device. He needed to warn someone. But before he could, the broadcast from the council chamber began. He watched his screen with growing dread. In the council chamber, Amy stood before thousands of aliens. She wore a simple blue suit. Her voice was strong and clear. 2 years ago, humanity was welcomed into this community as learners. We have learned much. But we have also given much. We have shared our knowledge, our culture, and our friendship. Today we ask to be recognized as full members of this council. The chamber was quiet. Chancellor Vextor stood from his seat. The council has reviewed humanity's contributions. We are impressed by your progress. Amy smiled. Hope filled her chest. Around the galaxy, humans watching the broadcast cheered. Then a Vexti council member stood. It looked like a massive praying mantis, with compound eyes that reflected the light in strange ways. When it spoke, its voice buzzed like 1,000 insects. The humans have been useful, it said. But usefulness does not equal equality. They are too young, too primitive, too aggressive. We should classify them properly. Properly? Amy asked, her smile fading. The Vex team member made a clicking sound. They are Vorkai. Nothing more. The chamber erupted in noise. Some aliens nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable. But no one objected out loud. In the archives, Greg's face went white. He knew that word. He had just read about it an hour ago. Vorkai, an ancient galactic term that hadn't been used in 3,000 years. It meant useful cattle, property, things to be owned and used. No, Greg whispered. He frantically started recording everything he could from the archives. Amy stood frozen on the platform. I don't understand. What does Vorkai mean? Chancellor Vextor finally spoke. His golden eyes showed no emotion. It means that humanity has proven its worth, but not as equals, as resources. Your medical knowledge will serve the galaxy. Your engineering skills will build our projects. Your worlds will provide what we need. You can't do this, Amy said, her voice shaking with anger. We came in peace. We trusted you. And we are grateful for your trust, Vextor replied. You will be treated well as long as you cooperate. Resist, and the consequences will be severe. Before Amy could respond, council guards moved toward her. She tried to run, but they were too fast. They grabbed her arms and began dragging her away. Send the message to all human worlds, Vextor commanded. Effective immediately, humanity is reclassified as a resource species. All human ships are to be seized. All colonies are to be occupied. All humans are to report for work assignments. On New Terra, Sam watched in horror as the broadcast cut off. Alarms began blaring across the colony. He looked up and saw alien warships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Dozens of them. Then hundreds. Everyone to the shelters, Sam shouted. But he knew shelters wouldn't help, not against this. On Earth, Admiral Kevin Blake was in an emergency meeting when the news arrived. All human ships near Council space have been captured, his aide reported. Colonies are reporting orbital blockades. Sir, they're landing troops. Kevin slammed his fist on the table. How many ships do we have? In total, maybe 200 that aren't already captured. And they have? Over 50,000, sir. The room fell silent. They were outnumbered and outgunned. They had no chance. Jake Morrison was on the horizon, returning from a supply run to a human mining station. His communication officer suddenly went pale. Captain, I'm receiving emergency broadcasts from everywhere. Earth, New Terra, all the colonies, they're all saying the same thing. We've been betrayed. The Council is attacking. Get us out of here, Jake ordered. Maximum speed, and find every human ship you can. Tell them to run. As the horizon jumped to faster-than-light speed, Jake watched alien patrol ships moving to intercept other human vessels. Some escaped. Most didn't. In the Council archives, Greg finally managed to send his data to an encrypted human server. Seconds later, guards burst through the door. He tried to fight, but a stun weapon dropped him to the floor. Back on New Terra, alien soldiers were landing in the streets. They carried weapons that humans had never seen before. Sam organized whatever defense he could, but civilian colonists with mining tools couldn't fight professional soldiers with energy weapons. Within 6 hours, New Terra was occupied. Within a day, every major human colony was under alien control. Earth's orbital defenses held out for 3 days before being overwhelmed. The galactic news networks praised the Council's decisive action. They called humans dangerous and aggressive. They said the Council was protecting the galaxy. They lied about human attacks and threats that never happened. In a cell on Sanctuary Prime, Amy sat in darkness. She could hear other human prisoners in nearby cells. Some were crying, some were silent. All were shocked. One word had destroyed everything. Vorkai. Useful cattle. The aliens had planned this from the beginning. The welcome, the trade, the kindness, All of it was a trap. They had studied humanity, learned their strengths and weaknesses, and waited for the right moment to strike. But in that cold cell, Amy made a promise to herself. They had called humans cattle. They would learn their mistake. Cattle might be useful, but humans were hunters. And hunters never forgot when they were betrayed. 6 months had passed since the word Vorkai changed everything. Colonel Frank Miller crouched in the ruins of what used to be Chicago. Above him, alien patrol ships scanned the rubble with their sensors. He held his breath and waited. The occupation of Earth had been swift and brutal. Major cities were blockaded. Anyone who resisted was arrested or killed. Alien soldiers walked the streets, enforcing curfews and work quotas. Humans were forced to labor in factories, building weapons and ships for their captors. But humans didn't give up easily. Frank had been a Marine before the invasion. Now he led one of dozens of resistance cells operating across Earth. They had few weapons and fewer supplies, but they refused to surrender. The patrol ship passed overhead. Frank exhaled slowly and signaled to his team. 6 men and women emerged from hiding spots in the rubble. "The convoy will pass through here in 20 minutes, Frank said quietly. "We hit them fast and hard, then disappear before reinforcements arrive." "Sir, our weapons barely scratch their shields," said one of his soldiers, a young woman named Kate. "I know. That's why we're not shooting the ships, we're shooting the drivers." Alien shields protected their vehicles, but those shields had to have openings for the aliens inside to see out. It was a small weakness, but it was all they had. The convoy arrived on schedule. 3 transport trucks carrying supplies to the alien base north of the city. Frank's team opened fire. Their bullets couldn't penetrate the vehicles, but when an alien soldier leaned out to return fire, Kate's shot took him down. The convoy stopped. More aliens emerged. Frank's team kept firing, forcing them to take cover. Then Frank detonated the charges they had planted under the road. The explosion flipped 2 of the trucks. "Go!" Frank shouted. His team scattered into the ruins as alien reinforcements screamed overhead. They lost 2 people that day, but they destroyed supplies that would have taken weeks to replace. Small victories. That was all they had. On New Terra, Commander Sam Carter faced different problems. The colony was under strict alien control. Every human was required to work 12-hour shifts in the mines or factories. Food was rationed. Communication with other colonies was forbidden. But Sam had a secret. Deep under the colony's main building, in maintenance tunnels the aliens didn't know about, he was organizing resistance. 50 colonists met there tonight, tired from their work shifts but determined to fight. "We can't beat them with force," Sam said. "They're too strong, but we can make their occupation costly. Sabotage, delays, making them waste time and resources." "They'll punish us," said an older man named Henry. "They're already punishing us," Sam replied. "At least this way, we're doing something." Over the next weeks, accidents started happening in the alien-controlled facilities. Equipment broke down. Shipments were delayed. Nothing that could be clearly blamed on sabotage, but enough to frustrate the occupiers. Far from Earth, in the cold darkness of the Kuiper Belt, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon. Around his ship floated the remnants of humanity's free fleet. 193 ships. That was all that remained. Most were civilian vessels not designed for combat. Mining ships, cargo haulers, a few science vessels. Jake had maybe 20 military ships, and most of those were patrol boats not meant for serious fighting. Behind him, Dr. Lisa Harper worked at a console. She had been analyzing alien technology from a captured patrol ship. Her findings weren't encouraging. "Their shields are at least 50 years ahead of ours," she said. "Their weapons are more powerful. Their ships are faster. Jake, we can't win a straight fight." "Then we don't fight straight," Jake replied. He turned to face his small fleet. "Get me a line to all ship captains." When everyone was listening, Jake spoke. 6 months ago, the Galactic Council betrayed us. They called us cattle. They took our worlds and enslaved our people. They think we're beaten. He paused, letting his words sink in. They're wrong. We're not cattle. We're humans. And humans have survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and every disaster nature could throw at us. We'll survive this too. How? Someone asked. They have 50,000 ships. We have less than 200. They have numbers, Jake agreed. But we have something they don't. We have anger. We have a reason to fight. And we have the home field advantage. They're far from their supply lines. We're fighting for our home. Another captain spoke up. What's the plan? We become ghosts. We hit their supply lines. We rescue prisoners. We steal their technology and learn their weaknesses. We make them bleed for every inch of human space they occupy. And we send a message to every human still alive. Don't give up. Help is coming. Dr. Greg Walters, who had escaped with Jake, stepped forward. He looked thin and tired, but his eyes burned with determination. I've been studying the data I stole from the Council archives. They've done this before to 17 other species. Every single one of those species gave up. They accepted their fate. But humans don't do that. We're the first species that's actually fighting back, and they don't know how to handle it. On Mars, in a secret facility built into the red rock, Dr. Maya Stevens stared at her latest test results. She was a weapons researcher, one of the best humanity had. When the invasion began, she had been on Mars conducting experiments. The aliens didn't know about this facility. That mistake would cost them. Maya had been studying the alien shield technology. It was impressive, but it had weaknesses. The shields were designed to stop high-energy weapons and fast-moving projectiles. They weren't designed for what Maya was developing. She called it a quantum disruptor. It didn't try to break through the shields. Instead, it made the shield generators think they were overheating, causing them to shut down automatically. In her tests, it worked perfectly. Now she needed to build enough of them to matter. Her assistant, a young engineer named Paul, brought her coffee. The aliens found our listening post in the asteroid belt. They're getting better at detecting our operations. Then we need to work faster, Maya said. She looked at her prototype weapon. 3 more months. That's all I need. 3 months, and we can start evening the odds. Back on Earth, Frank received a coded message. It came from the Kuiper Belt, from Jake Morrison. The message was simple. Hold the line. We're coming home. Frank smiled for the first time in weeks. He gathered his team and showed them the message. Hope spread across their faces like sunrise. Spread the word to every resistance cell, Frank ordered. Tell them to keep fighting. Tell them we're not alone. Across human space in occupied cities and enslaved colonies, the word spread. Humanity's fleet was still out there. They were still fighting. And they were coming back. The aliens had thought conquering humanity would be easy. They were learning their mistake. You could defeat a human army. You could occupy a human city. But you couldn't break the human spirit. Every day of occupation, every cruelty, every reminder of the word Vorkai only made that spirit harder and more dangerous. The Galactic Council had awakened something they didn't understand. They had cornered a predator and called it cattle. Now that predator was baring its teeth. 1 year after the betrayal, everything changed. Admiral Kevin Blake stood on the bridge of the Defiance, a ship that shouldn't exist. Everyone thought he had died when Earth fell. They were wrong. Kevin had survived by doing what humans do best, adapting. When the invasion began, he had been inspecting a secret shipyard hidden in a nebula near Neptune. The aliens didn't know about it. For a year, Kevin and his team had been building ships there, using stolen alien technology combined with human engineering. Now he had 40 warships. They weren't pretty, and they didn't follow any standard design, but they were fast, they were tough, and they were angry. Admiral, Captain Morrison's fleet has arrived, his tactical officer reported. Kevin smiled. Good. It's time to go home. The combined human fleet now numbered over 200 ships. It was still tiny compared to the alien forces, but numbers weren't everything. Kevin had spent a year planning this operation. He knew exactly where to hit and how to hurt them. On Earth, Colonel Frank Miller received a coded transmission. 3 words. The hammer falls. It was the signal he had been waiting for. The fleet was coming back. Frank activated the communication network he had built between resistance cells. All units, this is command. Operation Hammer is a go. Repeat, Operation Hammer is a go. Across Earth, resistance fighters emerged from hiding. They had been preparing for this moment. Weapons caches were opened. Stolen alien equipment was activated. Every resistance cell knew their target. On New Terra, Commander Sam Carter got the same message. He looked at his core team of rebels. Today we take back our home. Are you ready? They were ready. They had been ready for a year. In orbit above Earth, the alien commander Admiral Korvash of the Drathkar sat in his flagship. He was bored. Humans had proven disappointing. Their resistance was annoying but not dangerous. Some sabotage, some attacks on patrols, nothing serious. Then his sensors detected something impossible. A large human fleet had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. How many ships? He demanded. 243, Admiral. Korvash laughed. They dare to challenge us with such a small force? Send 500 ships to destroy them. Let this be the end of human foolishness. But Kevin Blake hadn't come to fight a conventional battle. As the alien fleet moved to intercept, human ships scattered in every direction. They didn't run away. They ran toward specific targets. 20 ships headed for the alien supply depot near Jupiter. 30 more dove toward the communication relay at Mars. Others targeted patrol stations, refueling points, and command centers throughout the solar system. The alien fleet tried to chase them, but humans had planned every move. They knew this system better than any alien did. They used asteroid fields for cover. They hid in the magnetic field of Jupiter. They used tactics the aliens had never seen before. Jake Morrison led his squadron toward the largest orbital station above Earth. It housed 5,000 alien soldiers and controlled the planet's occupation forces. Remember, we don't need to destroy it, Jake said over the communication line. We just need to disable it long enough for our people on the ground to act. His ships came in fast and low, skimming Earth's atmosphere where the station's sensors had blind spots. They launched missiles loaded with Dr. Maya Stevens' quantum disruptors. The station's shields flickered and died. For 30 seconds, it was defenseless. Jake's ships fired everything they had. Not at the station's hull, but at its communication arrays and power generators. The station went dark. On the ground, Frank's team saw the sky light up with explosions. That was their signal. They attacked the alien garrison in Chicago. Other cells did the same in London, Tokyo, New York, and 100 other cities. The aliens had relied on orbital support and communication with their bases. Without it, they were confused and isolated. Human resistance fighters, who knew every street and building, had the advantage. In the command center on New Terra, Sam watched as his carefully planned sabotage bore fruit. Every system in the alien base started failing at once. Life support went offline. Doors locked randomly. Lights flickered. The aliens panicked. Sam's team struck while they were disorganized. It wasn't a fair fight, but Sam didn't care about fair. The aliens hadn't been fair when they called humans cattle. Dr. Lisa Harper was with Jake's fleet, monitoring the battle. She noticed something important. The aliens were following standard military procedures. They had rules for engagement. They coordinated their movements by the book. Jake, they're too organized, she said. They're treating this like a training exercise. How do we use that? Jake asked. Lisa thought fast. They expect us to retreat when overwhelmed. What if we charge instead? They'll hesitate, trying to figure out if it's a trap. Jake grinned. I love the way you think. He gave orders to the fleet. Human ships that seemed to be losing suddenly turned and charged directly at larger alien vessels. The alien commanders, trained to think in terms of logical tactics, assumed it must be a trick. They wasted precious seconds trying to figure out the trap that didn't exist. Those seconds were enough. Human ships got close enough to use their new weapons. Shield disruptors fired. Alien defenses went down. Conventional weapons did the rest. On Sanctuary Prime, Chancellor Vextor watched reports coming in from human space. This shouldn't be happening. The humans were supposed to be beaten. They had no resources, no fleet, no hope. Yet they were winning. Not everywhere, but in enough places to matter. The supply depot at Jupiter was destroyed. 3 major command stations were offline. Occupation forces on Earth and 5 colonies were under heavy attack. "How is this possible?" Vextor demanded. His aide, a nervous Lumina being that flickered like a candle, spoke carefully. "The humans are not fighting as we expected. They ignore standard tactics. They sacrifice ships to achieve objectives. They use their knowledge of their own territory against us. And Admiral, they're spreading propaganda." "Propaganda?" The aide activated a screen. It showed recordings of alien commanders discussing the Vorkai classification. It showed footage of human prisoners in labor camps. It showed council meetings where they laughed about enslaving humanity. "They're broadcasting this across the galaxy," the aide said. "Many species are disturbed by what they see." Vextor felt something he hadn't felt in centuries: fear. The humans were not just fighting back, they were winning hearts and minds across the galaxy. On the Defiance, Kevin received reports from across the solar system. New Terra was liberated. The orbital blockade over Earth was broken. Resistance forces had taken back major cities. He opened a channel to all human forces. "This is Admiral Blake. Phase 1 is complete. Earth is ours again. But we're not done. Every human held prisoner, every colony under occupation. We're coming for all of them." Then he sent a message to the Galactic Council. It was simple and direct. "You called us Vorkai. You called us cattle. You made a mistake. Cattle don't fight back. Humans do. And we're just getting started." In her lab on Mars, Maya Stevens watched the battle reports with satisfaction. Her quantum disruptors had worked perfectly, but she was already working on the next weapon, and the next. She had a year's worth of anger to channel into innovation. The tide was turning. Humanity had been knocked down, but not knocked out. Now they were getting back up, and they were furious. The Galactic Council was about to learn an important lesson. Never underestimate a species fighting for its freedom. Never mock a predator when you're standing in its den, and never ever call a human cattle. The final battle began on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. Admiral Kevin Blake stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking at the holographic display showing the Galactic Council's main fleet. 5,000 alien warships surrounded Sanctuary Prime, the Council's headquarters. Kevin had 300 ships. Every vessel humanity could spare. It wasn't nearly enough, but Kevin wasn't planning to win through numbers. "Dr. Stevens, are your weapons ready?" he asked. Maya Stevens, now serving as the fleet's chief weapons officer, nodded. "Every ship is equipped with the quantum disruptors, but Admiral, their fleet is massive. Even if we take down their shields, we can't destroy them all." "We don't need to destroy them," Kevin said. "We just need to make them question everything." Jake Morrison commanded a wing of 40 ships. Lisa Harper was with him, coordinating what she called psychological warfare. For the past month, they had been broadcasting across the galaxy. Not just military communications, but messages aimed at every alien citizen. They showed the truth, the labor camps, the executions, the lies the council had told. They showed recordings of council members laughing about enslaving not just humans, but the 17 species before them. Many aliens had been shocked. Some didn't believe it. But others, especially younger species who had joined the council more recently, started asking questions. Why hadn't they been told about the Vorkai classification? Why were there no records of the other 17 species? On Sanctuary Prime, Chancellor Vextor was dealing with a crisis. 3 council member species had withdrawn their support. 2 more were demanding an investigation. The unity that had held the council together for 10,000 years was cracking. "We must crush the humans quickly," Vextor told his war council. "Every day they resist. More of our members question our authority." Admiral Korvash bowed his scaly head. "Then let us end this. My fleet is ready." The human fleet approached Sanctuary Prime slowly, making no aggressive moves. Alien sensors detected them immediately. Korvash prepared to order an attack. Then Kevin Blake sent a message. It was broadcast on every frequency so everyone could hear it. "Chancellor Vextor, this is Admiral Kevin Blake of Earth. I'm here to offer you one chance. Surrender now. Release all human prisoners. Withdraw from all human territory. Submit your leadership to trial for crimes against sapient species. Do this, and no more blood needs to be spilled." Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched and listened. This was history happening in real time. Vextor's response was cold. "You are Vorkai. You have no right to make demands. Your fleet will be destroyed, and your species will be returned to its proper place." "Wrong answer," Kevin said quietly. He gave the signal. Every human ship launched missiles, not at the Council fleet, at Sanctuary Prime's communication and defense systems. The quantum disruptors hit first, dropping the station's shields. Then conventional weapons destroyed the arrays that controlled the entire sector's communication network. Suddenly, the Council's ability to coordinate its vast empire was cut off. At the same time, resistance cells activated across the galaxy. On occupied worlds, humans who had been waiting for this moment struck. They weren't trying to defeat alien forces. They were trying to disrupt them, delay them, make coordination impossible. The alien fleet moved to protect Sanctuary Prime. That's when Kevin revealed his real plan. The human fleet didn't engage. Instead, they scattered again, just like they had at Earth. Each ship headed for a different council facility in the sector. Korvash tried to respond, but his fleet was designed for massive, coordinated battles. It wasn't built to chase hundreds of small targets going in different directions. On Earth, Colonel Frank Miller led an assault on the prison where Ambassador Nina Cole and thousands of other humans were held. The facility was heavily guarded, but Frank had something the guards didn't expect: information. One of the guards was from a species called the Telvari, peaceful beings who had been horrified to learn about the Council's crimes. He had secretly contacted the human resistance, offering to help. When Frank's team arrived, the Telvari guard opened the gates from the inside. The other guards, caught by surprise, surrendered without a fight. Nina emerged from her cell, thin and tired but unbroken. "Colonel Miller, about time you showed up." Frank grinned. "Sorry for the delay, ma'am. We had to build a fleet first." Nina's smile was fierce. "Then let's finish this." In space near Sanctuary Prime, Jake Morrison's squadron captured an alien communications ship. Lisa Harper quickly accessed its systems. What she found was better than she hoped. "Jake, I have access to the Council's internal communications. They're panicking. 6 more species are threatening to withdraw. Some are demanding Vextor's resignation." "Send that data to every news network in the galaxy," Jake ordered. The information spread like fire. The galactic public, which had been told humans were dangerous criminals, now saw the truth. The Council was collapsing from within. Chancellor Vextor sat alone in his chamber, watching his empire crumble. His communication officer brought more bad news. "Chancellor, Admiral Korvash reports the human fleet has destroyed or disabled 17 major facilities. Our supply lines are breaking down. And, sir, the Council chamber is demanding an emergency session." Vextor knew what that meant. They were going to vote him out, maybe even arrest him. He tried one last time to reach out to humanity. He sent a private message to Admiral Blake. "What do you want?" Kevin's response was immediate. "Justice, freedom, and the end of the word Vorkai." "I can give you that," Vextor said desperately. "Just stop the attacks. Let me keep my position." "No," Kevin said firmly. "You had your chance for peace. You chose slavery instead. Now you face the consequences." The final confrontation happened not in space, but in the council chamber. The member species gathered for an emergency vote. Vextor stood before them, trying to defend his actions, but the evidence was overwhelming. Recordings of his orders, documents showing the slavery system, the faces of the 17 species that had disappeared. One by one, council members stood and condemned him. Even his own species, the Drathkar, turned against him. The vote was unanimous. Vextor and his closest advisors were removed from power and placed under arrest. The old council was dissolved. 3 weeks later, representatives from every galactic species met to form a new government. This time, humans were invited not as observers, but as equals. Ambassador Nina Cole, recovered from her imprisonment, stood before the assembly. "We could have destroyed Sanctuary Prime. We could have taken revenge on every species that stood by while we suffered. But that's not who we are. We fought for freedom, not conquest. We seek justice, not vengeance." She paused, looking at the thousands of alien faces watching her. "But let this be clear. The word Vorkai will never be spoken again. No species will ever be enslaved. Any government that tries will face humanity's full wrath. We will be the galaxy's guardians against tyranny. This is our promise." The new Galactic Assembly, as it was now called, agreed unanimously. Laws were passed protecting all species. The slave labor system was abolished. The old council's crimes were fully investigated. Vextor and his co-conspirators were found guilty of crimes against sapient life. Their punishment was unusual but fitting. They were required to travel to every world that had suffered under their rule, meeting with victims and hearing their stories. They would spend the rest of their long lives facing the consequences of their actions. On Earth, humans celebrated, not just victory, but the fact that they had survived, that they had stood up against impossible odds and won. Captain Jake Morrison stood in New York City, watching as alien ships arrived. But this time, they came as friends, not conquerors. Delegations from dozens of species came to apologize, to help rebuild, to start fresh. Lisa Harper joined him, watching the ships land. "Do you think it will last, this peace?" Jake considered the question. "Maybe. Maybe not. But we taught the galaxy an important lesson. Humans can be great friends, but we're terrible enemies. Anyone who forgets that deserves what they get." Admiral Kevin Blake stood at the memorial built for the humans who died during the occupation. 50,000 names were carved into the black stone. He placed his hand on the monument. "We won," he said softly. "We kept the promise. Earth is free." In the end, the story of humanity's war with the Galactic Council became legend. It was taught to every young alien as a warning. Never judge a species by their age. Never mistake mercy for weakness, and never ever call a human Vorkai. That single word had triggered a war that ended an empire and changed the galaxy forever. From the ashes of the old council, a better system emerged. One based on respect, equality, and the understanding that every species deserves freedom. And humanity, the youngest species in the galaxy, became its most respected defenders. Not because they were the strongest, but because they had proven that some things are worth fighting for, that freedom is worth any cost, and that even the smallest voice, when raised in defiance, can topple giants. The word Vorkai was erased from galactic languages. It lived on only in history lessons as a reminder of what happens when power becomes tyranny, when arrogance becomes cruelty, when a predator is mistaken for prey. Humanity had spoken, the galaxy had listened, and nothing would ever be the same.